Dude, you sound stressed out. You doing okay?
I'm doing fine. I'm leaving the country tomorrow, taking the kids to immersion Spanish school. It's kind of a big deal. We've been talking about
Really?
doing
That's what this is?
Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for years, and we are finally doing it. It's a week in a little bitty town, inland in the middle of Costa Rica, I think. I don't know. My wife has done all the planning. But we're going to an immersion school. That's what we're doing.
I'm not a good friend. You've brought that up like twice, and in my brain, I just put that in the smarter everyday jungle frog video. I don't know. I just lumped it in somewhere. But that's right. You did mention that you were talking about doing this, so you're actually pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
You're going to go teach the kids Spanish. How much are they supposed to be able to pick up in something like that in a week?
I don't know. We've had them in classes here. And so, I kind of poked in today just to kind of see what they were doing. And they were rattling through the colors and numbers and all that kind of stuff. And they were doing it in context with rhymes. So they were rhyming things in Spanish, which was interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
that works.
Does it?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about all the little rhythms and rhymes that you remember, like an old song from childhood that you haven't heard in 20 years comes on, and there's just enough of a prompting there to get you to the next rhyme, and then you realize you know the whole thing. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so we're excited about it. We're hoping that it lays a good foundation, and then we'll double tap that. So the idea is we go down and we teach them the importance of having that extra language by seeing an entire society that only operates in that operating system. And then, they're like, oh, wow, I actually do need to know this. This is not just a subject in school. Because I didn't have that knowledge until, I went to Ecuador in 2003. And, Spanish was just a subject in school to me. But once I saw it in play, I was like, oh my gosh, why did I not pay attention more? That's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. It was a subject in school. I was raised in the context of a lot of first and second generation Latino culture in northern Colorado around like the meat packing plants there. And there was just a rivalry. And I think at that point in life, I kind of resented that Spanish was a thing as a 15-year-old. And that Spanish was a class I had to take. And so I did what it took to get through, but I didn't learn anything. And then a couple years later, I moved to Chicago, and something just happened, and my heart went super soft, and I felt like a big jerk for attitudes that I carried with me. And then that's when I started to think, like, wow, Spanish is not like a code, like, that you're speaking in some kind of code to other people. And also, when people are speaking Spanish and I don't understand, they're probably not talking about me, which was an arrogant assumption I made when I was a kid. And then we got done with school, and both Camilla and I felt like we needed to do, something with a foreign language. And then she just fell in with this volunteer group where people took time who didn't speak Spanish or any foreign language, but they would teach immigrants to speak English. Back then they called it English as a second language. Now I think there's a different acronym for it.
It was TESOL for a while, right? Teaching English as a second language?
Teaching English? Yeah, that could be it. I don't know. Camilla would know.
I had a roommate in college that did that.
But whatever the case, she fell in love with it, man. And when I was in seminary, she ran the Literacy Chicago ESL program for the city.
Whoa.
And was just wonderful at it. What a talented woman. So she had to learn how to teach. I mean, it's Chicago, so a lot of Polish immigrants. She had to learn to teach, a lot of Eastern Europeans and particularly Latinos. And then we got to be friends with some people who were here illegally, but in a horrible situation. And then we both felt like we really need Spanish. And so we both went back to school for it after we already had our undergrad degrees done, and tried to learn it academically. And then our roads kind of split because Camilla went and learned Spanish from her students. So she was learning just straight up Latin American street Spanish, and I'm learning booky, academic-y Spanish. And so then when we put it together, people we'd talked to together thought it was kind of funny how different our Spanish was, and we just weren't nuanced enough to understand the difference. But for us, at least, hearing you say what you did about the lesson you want your kids to learn, it really resonates with me because I wish I had learned that a lot younger than I did.
Well, for me, it's kind of changed recently because mi cuñado, my brother-in-law, is from Colombia.
Yeah.
And he's here in the States, and he's trying to learn English, and I'm trying to learn Spanish so I can converse with him. It's really fun when we go out by the tractor and we're about to bush hog or something like that. We're about to unload a tractor together, and we're sitting there talking. I'll talk to him in broken Spanish, and he takes the role of professor, and he will tell me how to say things. You're doing it wrong. Say it this way. Nope. I know that sounds like it would be right, but it's not. This is what you should say. Thank you. And then in English, he'll do the same thing. He'll ask questions about English. And so it's kind of a neat thing about our relationship now. And I know it's going to change because hopefully, I know he's definitely getting better at a very fast rate because he's full immersion, right?
Right.
And I hope that I make leaps and bounds as well. That was why I took Spanish in the fall semester at school. I wanted to learn more. And so I found that it wasn't hyper effective for me. I learned a lot of nouns and I learned a lot of verbs, but it's the conjugation that I have problems with. And I'm hoping, I've never done anything that was just full immersion. I've spent a week here, a week there. But for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Costa Rica in a class 6-7 hours a day and then immerse the rest of the time. And then after that, I'm going to the solar eclipse in Argentina. And, that's going to be immersion as well.
It's a lot of Spanish, man.
Well, I'm hoping it is.
Yeah.
It's very, I think the word is humiliating. It makes you humble.
Really? Humiliating?
Is that the word? I mean,
I would just go with humbling because you're not being shamed.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah, you're right.
you know what
Humbling.
I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
Humiliating has really negative connotations, and you're just a learner. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it's very humbling in the best of ways. And so I'm really looking forward to it. And I poked in the little classroom today, just poked my head around the corner and watched the kids learning. And they were my 3 oldest. And there was a teacher there, and they were playing a game, the rhyme game, as I mentioned. And it was fun to see their different levels. And this lady at the school, she teaches Chinese as well. And she walks out and she said, "I hear you're leaving tomorrow." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, she was an amazing woman. And she goes, "Well, let me tell you what I've learned about your kids." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, your oldest one is very mature and she's taking notes and she's learning by trying really, really hard. Your youngest one has an excellent memory and he's able to retain a huge amount of words in a short amount of time." And, she said, and your middle one's doing good too. She didn't really give me any specific feedback on him. But it was interesting to hear her because she teaches Spanish very differently, or in her case, Chinese. She was watching the teacher teach Spanish, but she teaches languages very different than you would get at the university setting.
How so? What does she do?
Well, it's conversational. Like when she let the kids in the door at the little, it's I don't know what you call it. It's not really a school. It's like they had something on the wall outside that says "Never Stop Learning." It's like, I like this place.
Right.
And when they come in the door, she says, "Good morning, how are you?" And they have to speak Spanish to her before she will let them in the door. Like, sorry, this is where we speak Spanish. And when I walked in the door and I asked a question, after they got done with their lesson, I asked a question. She kept me in Spanish the whole time. She corrected me.
How'd you do? Did that cause a slight panic?
No, not at all. No, she said, you're doing very good. So do you speak Spanish? You know how that goes. Just enough to introduce yourself into the conversation, and then they say, "Do you speak Spanish?" And then you immediately say, "Poquito." But what suggestions do you have for when I go down there? Like, if I want to learn verbs, I know you've done this in Spanish, you've done this in Italian. If I want to learn verbs, I have a hard time just listening because I don't know what the people are saying. And if I want to communicate it first, what do you recommend I do to try to extract the most out of this experience?
Okay. I would answer that question differently depending on who I was talking to. So one of the things that I've done to try to keep my Spanish sharp while I've lived in Lander is teach other people Spanish because there aren't really Spanish speakers here. There's like one lady at Subway, and then the guy at the Mexican restaurant doesn't like to speak Spanish with me. So they're just... If you want to keep it, you have to do it. So I talk with my wife and I try to teach other people. The biggest boosts to my Spanish and Italian are just being there. You just go and you listen and gradually you internalize the rhythm. And Did you ever see the movie The 13th Warrior with
yeah.
Antonio Banderas?
Yes, brief rabbit trail. You know when he learns Arabic by
Yeah,
just
you know
listening?
right where I'm going with this.
Well, but there's this one thing in that scene. In that specific scene, they have this bowl where they're washing their hands.
Okay.
And they'll like wash their hands in the bowl, and then they'll like spit in the bowl, and then do whatever, and then they'll hand the bowl off to the other person beside them. And it's supposed to be this transformative moment where he's listening to everyone talk. I have an aunt who, if you even mention that scene, she just audibly gags because of what they're doing with that bowl. So
she makes the noise?
No, she actually gags 100%, and it's not fake. You say, hey, do you remember that movie, The 13th Warrior, where he's learning how that... She goes... It's like...
You're not even mentioning the scene. You're just acknowledging the movie exists.
It's just like kryptonite. I've never seen anything like it, and she's not faking it. It is 100%
that's how I am
honest.
with the Star Wars prequels.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Anyway.
That's...
13th Warrior.
First of all, I was surprised that you had even ever heard of the movie because it came and went with a whimper. I mean, when did that come out? Like 2001? It's super old, right?
I think so. Antonio Banderas. He won't drink the beer because he says it's something that you've done to the grain. And they're like, no, we did this with honey. He's like, oh, yeah.
That is what stood out about the show, though, right? Was the
cultural differences.
And then the plot structure is awful. Like they go to a village and there's a thing out there in the caves or something. And then it attacks, and then they have to regroup, and then it attacks, and then maybe they win eventually. Structurally, it is hyper boring. But the beauty of that show is the learning. It's the mingling of cultures and having to overcome the language barrier. And I tell you what, man, that scene where he learns the language, I also made an audible sound in the theater, but it wasn't gagging. I reached over and squeezed my wife's hand and made eye contact with her and was like, whoa. This is just the most clever way to demonstrate what it's like to apprehend something like that. And I think with 2 weeks of immersion, getting back to your question, that's what you're going to experience is you're going to get brain fatigue and you're going to be tempted to just kind of shut it off at times. And the key is just grab onto anything you can and you'll start to hear these little rhythms that'll just appear somewhere in the sentence and you will learn verb structure, conjugation. You will learn, I don't know, how to jump between different endings, like the same way walking, that guy walks with a walker. Like all of that's intuitive for you and I because we just get where those things fit in the structure and the rhythm of a sentence and in a conversation. And so we kind of cheat to understand language structure. But the same thing will happen the longer you listen to Spanish. You'll see these little things click. And so when I talk with my Spanish-speaking friends in Nicaragua, they'll do this thing where they make fun of how we talk, and they'll just say a whole bunch of mumbo-jumbo nonsense, and they'll end it all with IONs. Mufligeration, and they're like, that's how English sounds to us. It all ends in shun, ian. And I'm like, yeah, we do that to you guys too. We just put O's on the end of everything. I have to go take a poopo. And they laugh and laugh and laugh.
You say L at the beginning, El Pupo.
Yeah, El Pupo, El Duso. And they... And so, but I mean, it's mostly like us just ribbing each other, but there is truth to that. So 2 times ago, no, maybe 3 trips ago to Nicaragua, I had just come off of Italy. And Italy and Spain, or Italian and Spanish, are brutal languages to learn at the same time because your vocabulary intermingles. And sometimes it helps.
Because they're both romantic, right?
Yeah, and there's also all these false cognates, and so you just screw everything up. And it's been difficult. But whatever the case... I flipped from Italian brain to Spanish brain, but weirdly, it helped. And it was like that part of my brain that was activated to hear these rhythms stayed on when I was in Latin America. And I think I saw like the biggest jump in terms of more advanced Spanish communication on that particular trip because those rhythms, 13th Warrior style, really started to click. And so what I learned from that is if you're going for the immersion thing, don't give in to the temptation of brain fatigue to check out. Like just stay engaged, and even if it's all flying over your head, it's not really all flying over your head. And you'll just start to notice where people use certain endings and how the inflection works when those endings come up and what the body language is doing. And your subconscious learning brain is going to piece that stuff together. And you are very astute. So I think it'll really work for you. So I guess that's my number one would be don't turn off your brain and just drink in all the rhythms of it, even if you don't understand the meanings.
It's interesting you say that. Isn't because you remember the backwards bicycle experiment where
Yeah, you just pointed a bicycle backwards and rode it like a
yes.
circus.
I don't know why I said, do you remember? Of course you remember. I did the backwards bicycle.
It's your bestest video ever in a lot of people's minds. I have some others that I like more, but yeah, you're talking about the one where you turn the wheel one way and then the handlebars one way and the wheel goes the other, and it breaks your brain algorithm for riding a bike.
This is what I learned about
that. Yes, that was all for the benefit of the third chair.
Yes, from doing that experiment, I just rode it for 5 minutes a day. Like I would get on the bike and I would just ride it for 5 minutes and I'd give up and then I'd go back to whatever I was doing. It took me a really, really long time to learn how to ride that bike. Months, like 8 months of just doing that. Like I would get home from work, I'd be really tired. Okay, time to go to the end of the driveway and back on the backwards bicycle. And I would do that. Well, I've noticed once some guy tells you that it takes 8 months and, he has a channel called Smarter Every Day and he seems like he knows what's going on with the world, obviously there's this implied challenge at that point, right? So I've seen...
Yes, the Daniel Tosh Nana Nana Boo Boo implied challenge. I understand the one.
I've seen a plethora of people do it at this point. They'll get the bike and they're like, how long did it take you? And I'll tell them, knowing that they have to beat it, right? And so they'll hop on. And what they do differently is they will get on and they will not get off, ever. And like I've left people in the front yard for hours. And sure enough, if you get on that thing and you don't get off for like 4 hours, you can do it. Some people can do it. And I sent one to Mike Boyd over in, I think he's in Scotland, I think. He has a channel where he learns stuff. I sent him a bike specifically for the purpose. I was like, hey, dude, I only did this for 5 minutes at a time. I want to figure out how long it takes you to do it if you just get on it and don't get off. And he was able to do it in like less than 2 hours. And so I think there's something, there's something to...
Immersion.
Yeah, immersion. Yeah, that's the thing. You're just like, well, this is my life now. I have to do it this way or it just doesn't, I'm not going back to anything else. And so your brain's like, well, crap, I guess I have to learn. So I guess I will. That's kind of what we're hoping to do.
I think there is something to that, just disrupting your comfort. And if you're going to function, you're going to have to figure this out. I mean, there's a necessity to it. This is going to be neat, man. You were asking me something. What were you saying?
Have you ever done the immersion thing?
No. I mean, I've done weeks at a time in other cultures. That power program I did to learn Italian, it wasn't immersion, but it was the equivalent of I'm getting on this backwards bike for 4 straight hours until I have it. I mean, I learned Italian once and then forgot it. And then needed to learn it again because I was taking 30 people to Italy and not like to Rome, like all over Italy. And nobody spoke Italian, so I needed to be dialed on it. I went hard, man. That was the year we launched the podcast. I was working on that really hard when we were recording the first episodes. And you remember my little girl was in the hospital down in Denver, and I just sat and talked with her. And then when she slept, it was just Italian all the time. And I have my way that I like to learn language, and it's different than the immersion thing. But I mean, I went hard. The rhythms, I started to see the matrix, and it worked. And now if I wanted to speak Italian again effectively, I'd need a week to resuscitate a bunch of that stuff. So that's probably traveling in Latin America in kind of rural places where nobody speaks English, I guess that counts as immersion. And I've gone really deep down the rabbit hole on a couple of power language learning treks, but I've never done anything like what you're about to do.
Cool. Yeah, I hope it works. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Does it freak you out?
No, it doesn't.
Is it intimidating?
No, what is intimidating is it's like hitting pause on the rhythm of life. I mean, I've got so much going on. Like as I'm leaving, as I'm going out the door.
Some might say too much.
Say it again?
Some might say too much going on.
Some might say too much. Yeah, as I'm walking out the door.
Only the dearest of friends.
Yeah. Yeah, so bottom line is, got a lot going on, and this has to put everything on hold. And
right.
But it's what I want to do. Like, I would love to be the kind of person that went to a foreign country and specifically for the purpose of learning a language with my children. I want to be that person, but let's be honest, I'm not. So I'm actively trying to wedge that in and hit it with a sledgehammer and get that wedge into my life.
Yeah, when you come back, we'll be able to have Spanish conversations. That'll be enough. That'll change things. I mean, we've done a little bit of Spanish homework together and a few phrases here or there last semester, getting you ready for stuff or just
Exams, yeah, you helped me study for exams at times.
Yeah, we'll be able to speak it a little bit. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Hola, mi amigo. ¿Cómo está?
Excelente. Y2.
El queso es viejo y mojado. The cheese is old and wet.
Necesito ser un duso. Yeah, I think that's about where we've been. No, this is going to be a step in the right direction.
So have you started listening to The Sun Does Shine yet?
Oh, I've done much more than start.
Really?
I started, got addicted, then some people walked up to me while I was running my leaf blower, cleaning off my driveway, and bawling.
You were crying in the front yard running your leaf blower?
It's a powerful story, man.
It really is.
And the driveway needed to be cleaned. So both happened at once because multitasking.
So I explained that this audiobook was life-changing. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't change my opinion about the death penalty, but boy, did it give me a lot more to think about it regarding that.
That's enough. That's enough. We will do a whole episode on that. Let's
Okay, just so everybody knows, I was against it before. I've always been against it. Okay, there, cool. All right, just want to get that in.
Yeah, okay. I think we just talk about the sponsor, which is Audible, because that's an upcoming episode. We're going to just do that whole book, right?
Yeah, we are. Can I talk about an audiobook that I just got done with? I think I've talked about it a tiny bit, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin.
Huh.
Have I told you anything about this?
No, is it just what it sounds like? Is it just more Game of Thrones stuff?
Yes and no. Here's the thing. It is a history book written by a maester from within the world of Westeros.
Oh, yes, you did tell me about this. And then the way he tells the story, it kind of betrays where his loyalties lie.
It does, and it's like he invented an entirely different way of telling history. And so some of it looks like how we do history, some of it looks like how we did history in the past, and some of it is its own kind of Westerosi version of how you do the discipline. So as a history guy, I was fascinated by the nuts and bolts of it, but also it's a really fun way to encounter the story. So I got an email, I don't remember when, it was a while back, from somebody who read Eric Larson's book, Devil in the White City.
Yep.
And I don't know, where would you say that ranks for you in terms of all-time favorite audiobooks in terms of history?
Well, here's the thing about that book. It's not that I enjoyed it in a really deep way, but everything about that book has stuck with me. Like I enjoyed obtaining the knowledge, but the story was just so dark. It was, it's hard to explain. Like there's books that change you, but it's not like you're excited and happy the whole time. And The Sun Does Shine is a little bit like that. You're not just happy the whole time. There are definitely moments of light in there, but for the most part, it's just something that changes you fundamentally, like who you are and what you believe. I don't know. That's where I'd put Devil in the White City.
Okay. For me, I think when I recommend an audiobook to somebody who doesn't like history or didn't like their high school history class or whatever, I start with that Eric Larson book because it's such good storytelling and rich characters. And then they say this didn't feel like a history audiobook. Like when people eat fish, the finest compliment they give is like, this didn't taste like fish. And so that's how history is, man. And so this Fire and Blood book by George R.R. Martin is in the same vein. I don't remember who wrote me that email, but to whoever you were who was like, I love Devil in the White City, what else you got like that? It's fake history, but it's really good and interesting history. Fire and Blood, George R.R. Martin. That's my recommendation.
That's awesome. So I've started a new one. It's about Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Oh, I know the guy, not personally.
Yeah, I mean, boy, that's a story. Yeah, speaking of death penalty, we know how that story is going to end. Right. But anyway, I think we just need to explain to people that Audible is sponsoring this episode of the podcast and just give them a chance to go and get that audiobook, because for the upcoming episode where we review it, it's going to be kind of important that you know the story.
Yeah, agree. And no one will regret listening to it. It's one of those audiobooks where the guy wrote it, so he didn't get executed. So there is kind of a spoiler just built into the audiobook and the author. But wow, is it powerful to work through the process of what happened there. And I don't want to get into it. You're right. I'm starting to get into it.
Yep.
That conversation is going to be fantastic. So people need to get it. How do they go and get the audiobook?
You do that by going to audible.com/NDQ or text NDQ to 500 to get started. And there's a special deal this time around. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for $4.95 a month for the first 3 months, which is like getting 3 months for the price of one. After that, it's only $14.95 a month. And this offer ends July 31st, 2019. So again, that's audible.com/NDQ or text NDQ to 500 to get started.
So the other day I was in Denver and a guy walked up to me and we're like, "Hey, are you Matt Whitman from No Dumb Questions?" I was like, "Well, And he said, "Hey, it just kills me when you don't read the promo codes twice because I want to obviously support the program because you guys are the best, and so you need to read them twice real slowly." And I was like, "Well, I'll see what I can do." So this one's for you, pal. Go to audible.com/NDQ or text NDQ to 500 to get started. Amazon Prime members can get Audible for $4.95 a month. For the first 3 months, it's like getting 3 months for the price of one. And after that, it's only $14.95 a month. This offer ends on July 31st, 2019. How did I do?
You did well. Sometimes you're just on, and between that and the fish comment, like the best compliment is like it doesn't taste like fish. You're on today, so congratulations.
Thanks,
for
buddy.
being on. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Go get
clock.
"The Sun Does Shine" by Anthony Ray Hinton, and join us when we do this audiobook review in an upcoming episode. That's it.
And if you happen to grab Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin as a backup, you might enjoy that too. Okay, that's all I got. Back to the conversation.
Yep. Let's get back to the convo.
Did you ever get to the place when you were really hitting that last semester where it started to affect your brain? Did you start to notice any different language brain start to occur?
I spent a lot of time in Peru, and at one point in Peru, I was dreaming in Spanish. Very simple dreams.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like dreams about your cat in your white house?
Dreams about an apple and run to tree.
All right.
No, but you know what I'm talking about. No, I've had dreams in Spanish with like plot and story arc and stuff like that. And
Oh, wow.
But like
Real
dreams
Spanish or just at the end of all the words?
No, the dream is experiential, right? So like I'm a person in the dream, but I only interact with people in Spanish. So that's kind of how the dreams happened.
Interesting.
So it's not like an incredible vocabulary is required to do that.
I've noticed a couple of things about dreaming when it comes to other languages, and I would count music as another language. If I'm in a place where I'm working on a project that involves music or playing something, or that's something that I like. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. So whether it's like music performance or language, if I'm in a place where I'm really going on that, I will start to dream in those categories. I guess Tetris is the third thing that I can dream in from time to time.
No way.
I dreamed in Tetris a lot in the early 90s, man.
What?
Like, it just, the whole dream would look like that Dire Straits Money for Nothing video. Everything was all like cubey, Lara Croft's torso in the early incarnations of her on PlayStation. Like everything was all cubicized. And then like my brain just had to put the blocks together in the right way. I would dream like that sometimes when I over Tetrised.
Have you ever heard of the Tetris effect?
Well, I assume that's what it is, right? Like you just
No.
see it
There's
everywhere?
a game. There's a game called the Tetris effect.
Oh, wait, no, I don't know what you're talking about. How does this work?
So Brady has done a lot of videos about Tetris. There's a guy I met in the UK, in Nottingham. I forgot his name, but he used to be the Tetris champion.
Was it the sheriff?
No.
Okay.
I forget his... No. It was Little John, actually. No, but anyway...
It was a lazy joke on my part.
It was a lazy joke to disrupt the rhythm. No, but he was an actual world champion in Tetris, and Brady has a great video on the topic. So anyway, I met the guy, and he was just explaining kind of some of the stuff. There's this thing you can get into called flow. Like your brain will just, like, you're in the Tetris brain.
Yep.
Anyway, this new... there's a video I watched that I really enjoyed. There's a new game called the Tetris Effect, and the whole world it's a virtual reality version of Tetris, and the whole world becomes Tetris, and they put a Tetris master in it just to see what would happen, and there are neat new attributes of the game, and just to watch that person's brain just totally immerse in Tetris because they're no longer looking at a 2D screen.
Mm-hmm.
God, I've got to find this video for you. It is anyway. Forgive me. You can dream in Tetris.
I mean, I'd have to play a lot, but yeah, I used to dream in Tetris, and all the meanings and messages and subconscious things that I was working out would all, how do you even describe this? They would all happen in the form of those 5 shapes of blocks moving in different directions, or 6 shapes, whatever it is. It was just bizarre.
What's your favorite block?
Well, it's a tall one because I want that wow sound. I mean, I always line up everything for the Tetris.
That's actually called a Tetris. You get a Tetris when you get 4 blocks in a row.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm tracking with you on that.
That's not my favorite block, actually.
Huh?
My favorite Tetris block is the, I don't know how to describe its shape. It's 3 blocks, and then it's got the one off the middle. It looks like a T. It looks like a squashed letter T.
Yeah.
How would you describe that shape?
I like squashed letter T. That was really good.
Yeah, but if you flip it on its side, it looks like a caltrop.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. It's an E with only the middle bar.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it. So what's your second favorite Tetris block?
The cube. No, it's the E with only the middle bar. Like if I just go with what raises my stress level when I see it, it's the stupid Z-shaped ones. Those can just jump off a cliff. I hate them. But the E with only the middle bar, that'd be my second.
Okay, we need to rank these things.
That's weird. I've never thought about ranking these things.
I haven't either. So for me, it's the E with the middle bar is number 1 in terms of what I like. Number 2 would be the long one. Number 3 would be, I kind of like the 3 and then the tab. What would you call those? The L's?
Yeah.
So the L and the 7, we can call it that.
Yeah, the problem with the game is the Z-shaped pieces. If those weren't there, that game is easy.
Is that the problem, though?
Well, you want there to be challenge.
There has to be challenge.
Yeah, maybe problem wasn't the right word.
The problem is when you get like 7 of those in a row. That's the problem. But if you get 1 or 2, then you just accommodate for it. You just stack them up on their sides, and then you just slide an L in there, right?
Yeah, that works pretty well. Yeah, the slide trick solves most problems. Yeah, that's what I tend to do with the Z-shaped ones. I do just pick a side and throw them all over there.
What's the highest number of lines you've ever gotten?
I mean, well into the hundreds.
I think I can remember 120 or 130 at one point in my life when I was really young and really fast.
Yeah, at that point, the music just gets offensive. Which music do you put on?
That's the music, right?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't remember. It does feel like it needs a hey, and like your arms folded, and you need to be kicking while
That's
jumping.
how that works.
Yeah. What are the other ones? You get the one that nobody likes is the one that gets really stressful when it gets fast. That's like the. Oh
yeah.
That one.
No, take it away. Take it away.
Yeah, I don't like it when it's at level 1, high 0. You get to like level 10, high 5, and that music's blazing fast and it's stressful. But what's the other? Oh, the other one's the Nutcracker. Dun 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 dun. Right?
Is it the Nutcracker?
Isn't that like Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies or something? That's from the Nutcracker, right?
Yeah, that is from the Nutcracker. I just didn't remember that music on there.
Yeah, I mean it's Russian. It seems to fit.
It's a great game, dude. I've got to send you that video of the guy in virtual reality. You're gonna dig it because it might make you dream in Tetris.
I've kind of missed it. The other video game that made me dream things or like affected my life and the way I thought was GoldenEye, because every time I saw a security camera anywhere, my brain said, "I need to shoot that. Somebody's watching. I need to shoot that right now." But you can't just shoot them in real life. There are fines.
Yeah, there are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was the same way with Zelda. I think I've mentioned this. Zelda and like cranes on the water. I'm like, if I shoot that with my bow and arrow, I get a chicken leg.
We have compared notes on this before. That's funny.
Yeah, we have.
Apparently we were telling the truth last time because I still mean it.
I still mean it too.
Here's the thing though, like all the way back to the language thing, you can get in that place of flow to where stuff starts to like you're thinking in different categories. Like I don't think in terms of making pieces fit with other pieces. I like things that are way more elaborately abstract, but you can get addicted to kind of a thought pattern, and there can be a lot of good in that. And with language, what's been interesting is that when I dream in Spanish, I'm way better. And I think it's legit Spanish. What it tells me is that there's some block, there's some obstruction that my conscious brain puts between me and really flowing in another language. And that when that obstruction is removed due to sleep, there's actually a lot more going on in my head linguistically than I might realize. Does that sound crazy? Is that too much?
No, not at all. I realized I got a lot better at speaking Spanish when I quit caring what people thought about me. I was like, whatever.
Well, that tends to work with most things, actually.
They can tell I'm American. They can tell that I don't have a clue. So I'm just going to try as as hard as I can. I'm going to do my best and try to be respectful. And it's surprising how they give you the benefit of the doubt. They're like, you're doing great. Keep it up. Thanks.
What would you do if somebody was here from Latin America and they were trying to speak English? How would you treat them?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you just be grateful they were trying, and you'd nudge them along where you can and tell them they're doing great. And I don't know, you just be nice to people, right? It's way better to be able to communicate than not.
Yeah.
I've had a touch of snobbery about my French in rural France, but in Paris, everywhere I tried French, people were cool.
Did I ever tell you about the train in Germany?
No, tell me about the train in Germany.
So first trip out of the country, somewhere I didn't speak the language at all. I bought a German dictionary phrase book on the way to the airport. And
okay.
I was there on a business trip, and I had to navigate from Frankfurt all the way to about halfway across the country. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be rough. I was like, so I got off the plane, looked at my phrase book to try to figure out how to say, where is the train? Like, that's how bad it is. And so, obviously could follow the pictures and stuff, but I was worried. Anyway, so get on the plane or the train, and they have these.
Wait, can I just ask real quick? Do you know how to say it now? Do you remember it?
What?
Where is the train?
Wo ist ein Bahnhof? That's like, where's the train station? Where is one train station?
Great.
I think is how I said it. So
yeah, I would have gone with something like Grunder Ickstein Trainenbügen. I think that actually might be it. I don't speak any German.
No, so Gleis is track, like Gleis is track, and the Bahn is the train, and Bahnhof is...
that makes sense.
Yeah, Bahnhof is the train station. And so...
Holy cow, man. You know some German.
I spent a lot of time there. So I know just enough to order food and stuff. Anyway, first trip, I didn't know anything. And so I got on the train, and there's numbers above your train seats that change at every stop. It's like an LED display.
Okay.
And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, am I in the right seat? I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm looking at my phrase book. I'm trying to read it. And this group of young teenage men, I'll call them, get on the train, and they walk up to me, and they're like energetic, and they're raucous, and they're talking to each other and all this. And they look at me, and they look up at the thing, and I'm like, oh crap. And they just kind of pause and look at me for a second. Clearly, I was a fish out of water. And I said, Entschuldigung, which means, excuse me. And I didn't know how to say it. And I said, Ich spreche kaum Deutsch. I speak little German. And I said, do you need to sit here? And I'm doing the pointy thing. I'm pointing at you. Do you need to sit here in my seat because of whatever that thing says above me? And so you can see the 3 points that I did there, right? Do you need to sit here because of that?
Because of thing. Yes, I got it.
Yeah. And so he looks at me, and one of his buddies behind him like snickers and laughs a little bit. And he said something, and I think it was about my mom. I'm not really sure what he said, but it was about my mom or me being a shovelhead or something along those lines. And then he kept walking down the aisle. I was like, oh, what the dump did I just do? And so I look in the phrase book, and it says handicapped. And so what I had told the kid, I was like, hey, kid, in front of all your other friends, you need to sit here because you're handicapped, clearly. You know what? That's the way it came across. Like, with all the body language and stuff, I interpreted what I had done. And I was like, I am a fool. I am a fool. And so it was really quite enjoyable. Once I figured out, I was like, okay, this is what it feels like to be a baby and not be able to get what you want. So
yes.
That was enjoyable.
Yeah, but even there, what you're describing is it's not the purest state of your mind wrestling with all that you've apprehended, both consciously and subconsciously. The social pressure of reality and the pressures of having to accomplish things quickly in the moment kind of messes with your ability to conjure all of that and to be cohesive and coherent and to take all of the input that's coming in. And again, that's what's so interesting about dreaming in different modes of thought. I referenced music when I was talking about the dream thing too. I feel like I've composed some of the greatest symphonies humans have ever written while I'm asleep. And I wake up and it's still in my head. And I'm like, I can't write it down fast enough. This is just gone. I've scrambled for my phone and my wife has woken up to me like singing stuff and imitating like cello noises kind of nasally into the phone at 3 a.m. I'm like, just don't talk, sweetie. This is important. And then it's just gone. It was so dang good. It was beautiful and it was original and it was awesome. And I wrote it. Like that counts as me, but I can't translate it into actual life. And so instead, I just play the juice harp and it's crap. But I think what's awesome about what you're about to go do and expose your kids to is that like you're turning 2 weeks into the dream time, you know? Are you still laughing at me making cello noises?
No. There's a faint memory of a friend telling me a story, and I don't know the story, but it involved that same feeling. Like, this is the biggest contribution to humanity in the history of the world. I must write it down. And he wakes up and he writes it down, and then goes back to sleep, and then wakes up the next day and looks at the paper, and it's like, don't trust the man with the clown nose. He has juice arms. You know, he's like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. But in the moment, he's like, this is what I need to. This is gonna fix everything. This is
why I'm here. This is my calling.
Yeah.
Man, it might have been me because I told you that one time I spent a whole week writing the best song I've ever written, and it turned out that it was just slightly different lyrics to like a very popular Coldplay song that I was like, man, this is good. I hear it all. This is so good. And I just wrote somebody else's song again.
But I completely can sympathize with that feeling of being in your dream and be like, this is important.
This means something.
I have actually invented things in my sleep before.
Anything good or stuff that's too embarrassing to say?
No, stuff I don't remember at the time, but I remember like having a complex technical problem at work and going to sleep and being so irritated about trying to figure out what was going on that I took it with me into Dreamland and solved it in Dreamland and woke up and been like, this is it. And I emailed it to myself. It does actually work.
That is a thing, man. And even if, okay, I'd liken it to this. We've talked about rods and cones and direct vision versus peripheral vision in low light. I think we've talked about it. Maybe not with mics on, but
yeah, it's scotopic, mesoscopic, and photopic vision. Yes.
Thank you. I knew there was a word for it.
Yes.
But I ever since I was a little kid, I've been fascinated by that. Maybe not a little kid. I don't remember when I noticed it, but I was a kid. I mean, honestly, I figured it out like one night when I was in the bathroom and I was peeing and everything was totally dark. And I was like, weird. I can see everything off to my right in the shower. Like I can see that there's like soap and shampoo bottles and stuff in there, but I can't see anything in front of me. I can't really like see the toilet. Like I'm kind of peeing by feel right now. Like just the sounds right to me. Nate's so stressed out hearing this. But like, yeah, I'm in the ballpark here. This is all working out. But I could see things off on the peripherals. I was like, that's so weird. And since then, whenever it was really dark, I'd always kind of turn my head to be like, what can I only see out of there? And then finding out there's actual science behind that and there's a reason was super fascinating to me and still is. But I feel like my brain works the same way. There's a bunch of stuff that I can calculate, that I can conjure, including linguistic stuff in conversation when I'm looking right at it through the front door. But then there's other stuff where if I don't immediately pull it out of the hard drive, I can fight as hard as I want, but I'm not going to be able to pull it through that main front door conduit of information. I have to do it with the peripheral brain. And I realize I'm stretching this analogy crazy thin. But I remember the first time I noticed this. I was probably about 11 years old. I was hanging out at my friend Chip's house with my buddy Adam, and there was a computer guy from G.I. Joe, and he did computer things, and I couldn't remember his name, and none of us could remember his name. But I think we had the action figure. It's like, it's Don Computerman. It's Computer Boy. Oh, come on. And we sat there and wrestled with it, and then finally, we just stopped thinking about it, And within 60 seconds of not thinking about it, I was like, it's Mainframe. Guy's name is Mainframe, guys.
Oh, I remember
And since
Mainframe.
then,
Yeah.
you remember Mainframe?
Yeah.
Or Don Computer Boy, whichever. Like that trick that I learned right then when I was 11, I've used that peripheral brain stuff so much. And when I'm really laboring with just kind of getting into Spanish fatigue when I'm traveling, it's like somehow that can kind of kick in and I can get a second wind in terms of language because I can just remember stuff that's in the brain somewhere. I can't access it through the front door, but it's in there. And if I just let that sit for a minute, it's going to come to me and then stuff kind of starts to flow again. Maybe that's weird. Maybe that's not how other people's brains work. But if I just come off of a problem for a second, whether it's through distraction and talking about something else or a dream, there is more in my brain than I know is in my brain. And it's equally as exciting when you access that out of the blue as it is frustrating when you can't access it directly. Have you experienced this?
I have. So a couple things. The terminology that you're using to explain the vision thing, it's called averted vision. And it has to do with this thing in your eye called the fovea.
Okay.
And the rods of your eye are around the center of the eye. If I'm not mistaken, the cones are right in the center. And the cones are less sensitive than the rods. And so that fovea, like if you want to see a really faint star, I did it the other night with the moons of Jupiter, looking through the binoculars. If you want to see the moons of Jupiter, right now you can, by the way, you kind of look off to the side, just like, half a degree off to the side, and you can see it with that peripheral vision. It's not really peripheral vision, which is kind of on the side of your eye. It's just averted. It's just off axis. And so this averted thought phenomenon that you're talking about is very real. There's a scientist, I forget who it was. He used to experiment with this, and the way he would do that is he thought he had like epiphany moments right next to sleep, and he would sit in a chair with a spoon in his hand, and he would hold the spoon over a plate or a pan, and he would just sit there and try to like think about something really complicated and difficult. And then when he would actually fall asleep, he would let go of the spoon, kind of like a dead man switch on a train. He would let go of the spoon, it would hit the pan, it would wake him up. And his thought was, at that moment right there close to sleep, that's where the neat brain stuff happens. And he would try to wake himself up to do that. And that is how he was able to come up with the name of the G.I. Joe character, Mainframe.
You can't get me on that because I actually know who came up with the name of that character because I watched a documentary about it on Netflix. But I see what you're doing.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. There's a documentary about where G.I. Joe came from.
Really?
It was actually kind of disappointing.
Yo.
I know you're at a Rockies game. Do you want to quickly record a little piece for the podcast that tells people that we really appreciate the Patreon supporters and the pen thing?
Yes, I do. And I'm not technically in the Rockies game right at this minute, so it's going to work out.
Okay, that's convenient because I'm recording right now. So we can just, like, we're recording it all.
Counts.
Yeah, we're recording already. Is that family?
That is family. I got a little buddy back here in the back seat. Say, hey, buddy. Yeah, they're all wearing Rockies hats. We're doing this thing for real.
Did they win?
Yeah, 2 home runs in the bottom of the 8th, 2 solo home runs in an otherwise almost completely offenseless game. It was fun. I had high fives all around and little expressions of awe and wonder that you want from kids when you take them to something like that. So, yeah, baseball magic.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Okay, so real quick, thank you to the patrons for supporting No Dumb Questions. And do you want to explain the pen thing real quick, Matt? We're about to send them out. Yeah, go ahead. Explain it.
Yeah, the pin thing goes like this. We're making awesome full-color Wing to Star enamel pins, P-I-N, not P-E-N, like not the kind you can write with. Yes, the kind that you can stick onto your backpack or jacket or I don't know, whatever. So we're working on that, and I made progress on that this week. And we're sending those to literally everyone who is a patron at the time that we have them done and ready to send out.
Yeah, and I think there was an issue on the Patreon page because at a certain level, the 50-50 level, I think there wasn't a way you could put the address in there. But I'm going to change that literally right now. And you can go make sure your address is in there. So everyone who's a patron and also has your address in Patreon will get a pin. That's how we're doing it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep. No point in making it complicated and tricky. And the point of this is real simple. Thank you for supporting the program. Wing to Stars. You rule.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're trying to get everything set up where it's awesome, and Patreon becomes the primary thing for us. So that's what we're doing.
Patreon.com/NoDumbQuestions gets done.
Why don't we just leave a link down in the show notes? Like whatever you're listening to the podcast on, just look in the show notes, and there'll be a little link there that says "Get your Winged Hussar pin."
Exactly. Yeah, I'll put it up by the top.
Okay, cool. Have a good one, man.
All right, talk to you in a bit, buddy.
Bye. So I actually tweeted something the other. I'm trying to find my own tweet. Oh, okay, here it is. Oh, I found it. November 8th, 2018. I tweeted this. I'm reading it anew. I don't remember what I said, but it says, "You know that moment right before sleep when you jump? For some reason, that's when my mind invents things and thinks deep, orderly thoughts. Tonight, my brain said, the tube in YouTube is a reference to a cathode ray tube, which you've never actually watched YouTube on." That's what my brain said to me at that particular night.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's interesting. There is a moment for that. Here's a really good response to that. Nerd.
I don't think I get the thought though during the hypnic jerk. Like there's nothing happening for me when that hypnic jerk moment that embarrasses you in school when you're falling asleep or church. That is not a calculating moment. The moment right before that for me does one of two things. I either compose symphonies or imagine my kids starting to fall off of a cliff and me heroically grabbing a rope and catching them and saving them. One of those two things happens in that moment.
Okay, here's a response to that tweet, man. Did you know the term hypnic jerk? Did you know that? That's what it's called, apparently.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So Charisse says, if you didn't already know, that jump is called a hypnic jerk, and the state from waking to dreaming is called the hypnagogic state. The state from dreaming to waking is called the hypnopompic state. Creative minds have used that threshold state to gain inspiration for centuries.
Really?
I didn't know this, man. Yeah.
So it's just that and LSD.
That
Interesting.
and just mainline and LSD.
That's right.
I don't even know how you would. I don't even know what you do.
Just a bucket. No, but that sounded like a good drug reference on both of our parts. We have no idea what we're talking about.
Do you want to sit here because of that sign? So.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you about this, but one time I was staying at a friend's house, and I had an experience right between sleep and awake. I dreamt that there was a noise just in another part of the house, and I'm in my tighty whities that night. I try to get up to do something about it, and I can't even move. Have I told you this story ever?
No, but I have a similar story with another friend. There was an earthquake in Alabama, and the story starts just like this. Anyway, continue with yours first.
No, I'll try to remember the details later on. But I mean, clearly, when episode 15 of this podcast, when we talked forever about the scaredest we've ever been, and we talked about the whole sleep paralysis thing, like obviously we're kind of dabbling in the same stuff. So it's interesting that there are two sides to this coin, this hypnic jerk. I don't remember what the other hypnic thing is. What is it called when you're going into it?
Hypnagogic state is when you're going from waking to dreaming. So when you're descending into sleep, you're in a hypnagogic state.
And what's the other way?
The other way is the hypnopompic state. It's when you're coming... P-O-M... Here we go. Papa, Oscar, Mike, Papa, India, Charlie. Pompic.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's interesting is that you get two sides to this coin, that you and I are both describing averted thought on the edge of consciousness, as being able to tap into creativity, to conjure memories, or just pull up facts that might be rattling around in the deep recesses of the brain. But on the other side of the coin, you can see a giant shadow monster that wants to claw you up and eat you in demonic form. So I guess that can go either way. Just flip of the coin.
I'm just sitting here thinking about, Hulk saying, that's my secret, I'm always angry. For me, it's like, that's my secret, I'm never focusing on anything. It's pretty true.
Well, what though? I wonder if there's something to that, man. No teachers ever told you like, oh, we think this Destin kid is ADD or anything like that, have they?
No teachers formally ever said it, but it was certainly. I've watched video of me playing as a kid, and there's a lot going on there.
Okay,
it's completely possible. Yeah.
look, I don't know anything about this other than knowing a few people who had that label attached to them. I don't even know if we even use that label anymore. That's how out of the loop I am. But what I know is this. It would seem that the whole ADD thing, I know you're joking, but I mean, really, isn't it possible that you could access more data and more creativity on the fringes of your attention span if your attention span is constantly being drawn to multiple things? There could be benefit to a thing that at least 10 or 20 years ago was diagnosed as being a learning disorder or a problem. Is that crazy?
No, not at all. Not crazy at all. I mean, my wife would 100% agree that my attention is pulled from thing to thing. Like, if I just told you what all was happening in my life today, you'd be like, what? It's just...
Well, no, if you told me what all is happening in your life today, I'd be like, well, we're awfully good friends, and none of that sounds out of the ordinary to me. But if I didn't know you, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, I think I spend a lot of time distracted. I do. And there's advantages and disadvantages to that.
I can see a whole lot of advantages.
Distracted, averted vision, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I was listening to a thing about Gandhi recently. Did you know Mahatma Gandhi? Did you know what the first word meant? It means the great soul. I didn't know that.
I've been told that before, but I couldn't have pulled it without being on the edge of sleep.
I did not know that. And one thing that was interesting to me is, I've never read anything about Gandhi. And now that I'm reading about it, somebody said this of him. They're like, he will go anywhere in any conversation, and he's not afraid of anything. He'll go there without a map. He is not afraid to consider anything. I thought that was interesting. I learned a lot about Gandhi, by the way, in this book I'm reading I told you about. So anyway, that's for another day.
Yeah.
Did I just do the distracted thing while we were talking about distraction?
You did. You did do that.
I'm sorry.
It was kind of amazing, frankly.
Yeah, that's
I feel
great.
like we've
Vision and all,
accomplished
but
what we
Gandhi.
came here to accomplish. And anybody who thinks that we have some kind of master plan for these episodes where we're going to get to this amazing aha moment can just look at that and understand, nope.
Oh man, okay, so we've covered
things
covered
just happen.
Tetris streams. We've covered the 13th Warrior,
Yes.
Mainframe, Gandhi, yeah, Spanish,
Costa Rica,
Italian.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's all been in service of the same thing.
Which is what?
And that brings me back to, which is, I think, language and the process of learning a language teaches us something about ourselves that is different than any other discipline or any other thing we do. Because I think when you learn a language, even if you do a crappy job and you butcher it completely, you are discovering a new possible self. I am not, Mateo and Matt are not fully the same person. It's not schizophrenia. It's just, I'm different in that environment. Spanish has a different rhythm. It has a different flow. Remember we talked to Derek, the medium is the message, the Marshall McLuhan quote. The medium affects what comes through. And I think there's a reason that the cultural differences exist between a Midwestern white guy from the United States and somebody the same age who is from Latin America. I mean, there's just a difference to the rhythm of life and the body and how love is expressed and how ideas are expressed. And I think it has a ton to do with some of those ancient structural evolutions of the languages that we speak at the most intimate level. And when you learn another language, I think what you do is you try on another self, not completely, but just a little bit. And without knowing it, those little subtleties and those little differences in the way a thought is organized, the order in which a series of words is most naturally expressed, I think it changes you a little bit. And I think it's really fun and invigorating to get to know just a little bit of Italian Matt. Not enough to really get a good sense of him, but it's different than Spanish me. And that's different than academic, the Greek, Latin me, which I don't speak those languages, but when you study them, your brain goes there and you see those Tetris rhythms as well. I think you're going to see a version of your kids and your wife and of you in the next 2 weeks. There's just a little glimpse into a different possible reality, a different permutation of self and how you handle your business in the world. And I think it's going to be really fun, and I'm really jealous.
I hope so, man. I appreciate you saying all that to help frame it for me, to help me understand what I'm walking into. And yeah, I just hope that Spanish Destin has a rose in his mouth and he dances a lot.
I hope he does too. I hope he has a mask and a big long Wolverine claw on one hand.
Like when you say mask,
Vega.
Obviously we're talking about the wrestling masks that are all throughout Latin America, right? The you know what I'm talking about? You pull it
The
all over.
Luchador Mask?
Yes. That's what we're talking about, right?
I was picturing Vega from Streetfighter II Champion Edition, but
Pretty rad. That's pretty rad.
I hear
as
what
well.
you're saying.
Oh, by the
If
way,
you come back wearing one of those and shirtless, I'm giving you 10 American dollars upon your return to the United States.
my brother-in-law speaks Contra. So that was one of the most major bonding moments we've ever had in our relationship thus far in the last couple years. So he comes over to the house and I said, "Hey, you wanna go over here and play Contra?" He's like, "You have Contra?" I was like, "Yeah, I've got Contra." He goes, "You know the code?" I said, "Yeah, I know of course I know the code." And so we put it in.
Universal language.
Yeah, it is. Dude is amazing at Contra. I put the code in, and I'm over there like, you know how you got to jump over the bridge that explodes? Yeah, you keep dying and stuff. He made it through the first 2 stages without losing a single life. This is not a joke. He knew, he would say like, "Wait, there's a man there." And I was like, "What?" And then I'd walk forward, and then one of those machine gun nests would pop up and kill me. He's like, "I told you it was there." Anyway.
Did he get the spread shot?
Oh, the spreader. Dude, yeah. He sometimes
There's no point in wasting it on you. Nothing personal.
That's completely right. I heard that it's possible with an update. You know, Konami is making a new version of Contra.
Pardon?
Yeah, it's happening.
Thumbs up.
And so I have heard that it's possible, like it's within the realm of possibility that they may make an old school version of Contra as a tag on to that game that you and I could play across the internet via Switch.
Oh my.
Do you have any idea what that's going to do to our friendship if that happens?
We will enter into a rhythm we have never yet experienced.
We'll dream in Contra, dude. We will dream in Contra.
Our thoughts will become synced like the Jaeger pilots in Pacific Rim. I don't think the world is ready for us playing online Contra together. Who knows what we might accomplish?
You know, the final boss, which is like the heart with a little spider alien shrimp coming out of it?
Yeah, the ridiculously easy final boss. It shouldn't even be in the game.
I never have understood that as well. But we're going to dream in that.
Yeah. Well, we have something to look forward to.
You can have the spreader.
Thank you. I feel like right now it would be better spent on me, but, you know, you give yourself a little time to get back in the rhythm. Because it sounds like that was a lot of dying in the first 2 stages, and I felt kind of vicarious embarrassment.
My brother-in-law and I, we'll start training up. I'll get him to train me. So he'll teach me Spanish, and he'll teach me Contra, and then we'll just go dreaming spider shrimp babies coming out of a giant alien heart.
I feel like you just summed up everything we discussed so neatly. You know what I can hear in the background?
A lawnmower.
No.
Oh,
No, I hear that little Chucky Chucky Ping Ping song.
Oh, that means we're almost done, doesn't it?
It's in my heart language.
I hear it too. I'm averting my attention away from this podcast.
Dude, have fun in Costa Rica. I hope this thing is fantastic, and I look forward to exploring the mysteries of the universe with you in Spanish.
Gracias, hermano.
Take luck.
Later.
Yeah, I get it. See you, buddy.